Hey, if you're a tenant in LA facing eviction for non-payment of rent, here are a few things that you should know. First, a landlord can only evict a tenant if the tenant owes more than what is the fair market rent of a unit of the same size. And the fair market rent changes every year, so if you want to know how much that is, you can check the Los Angeles Housing Department's website, see how big your unit is and how much the fair market rent for one of those units is as well. Second, if a landlord wants to evict a tenant for non-payment of rent, the landlord has to serve the tenant with at least a 3-day notice to pay or quit. And this notice has to be a physical written notice. It has to be personally handed to the tenant or stuck to their door, and also a copy mailed to them. And that notice has to include certain specific information like the amount of rent that is owed and the amount of bedrooms in the unit. Third, if a tenant attempts to pay the full amount demanded in a notice to pay or quit within the 3 days before the notice expires, a landlord has to accept it. They cannot deny payment at that point, but it has to be the full amount of rent demanded. They are not under any obligation to accept partial payments. Fourth, there are affirmative defenses to not paying your rent, the most prevalent one being a breach of the implied warranty of habitability. So if the landlord has been failing to fix anything despite being given notice of defective conditions of the unit, this can be used as an affirmative defense to not paying your rent if the landlord tries to evict for non-payment. And finally, a landlord cannot evict based off of rent that came due more than a year ago. It has to be more recent than a year. If the rent came due more than a year ago and you still owe that to them, the landlord cannot evict you based on that rent, but they could still potentially bring an action in civil or small claims court for it. So I hope this information has been helpful. I know a lot of people are going through hard times right now, and this is why it is so important to know what your rights are, to know what the process is, and to know what you can do to keep yourself housed and your family safe. Best of luck to everybody out there.